I'm flying solo, so I'm going to apologize in advance because, you know, I'm pretty good at multitasking. No, I'm actually the poster child for people who cannot multitask that are male. But outside of that, I will continue to do my best. All right. So, anyways, welcome to the January 2026 Boston Office 365 user group meeting. Happy New Year for those of you who have not yet seen. Welcome to the user group. Hopefully, you guys had amazing holidays and a new year as well. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Perfect. So these are the organizers. Dimitri is traveling abroad. Bill Gunning is on vacation. So I am David Pileggi. You probably have seen me in movies such, no, I can't, sorry, wrong spiel. Anyways, the three of us have continued to work on this. There's an honorable mention. Mike Dixon was one of the co-founders along with Dimitri and Chris Bortlick when the Office 365 user group first started. We're, I think, in our 12th year now, if memory serves correctly. I could be off by a year, but I'm pretty sure it's been 12 years now, which is crazy to think about. All right, so the agenda, we're going to do some M365 updates. We're going to do a sponsor highlight, and then we're going to do our featured speaker, Q&A, just like we always do. Community chat, events, raffle, and then mingle. Talk about, you know, amongst yourselves about Barbara Streisand, all that good stuff. Hi, and welcome to Coffee Talk. I'm a little bit clamped right now. Come on in.
Funny, you got some gas.
And, oh, absolutely. And if you want pizza, it's in the kitchen right over there.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Want to pick seats?
Yay.
Awesome. Let's see, I'm not hearing anything. Did I? Let's see. Arthur, can you hear me? Anyone on?
Yes.
Okay. Because somebody is having issues with sound. So let's hopefully it's not because you accidentally muted yourself.
The kitchen after you put your stuff down.
All right. So, well, some of the individuals who have been able to come in person, go grab some food. We'll continue on. Awesome.
Good food.
Oh, it's really good. Oh, the pizza's amazing. Trust me. So last session, we had a practical framework for Microsoft 365 Copilot Agent Governance, and it was presented by Conwall Kipple. Kipple. I always do that. I added W for no apparent reason, but what? Sorry, Conwall. It was absolutely amazing. He did a phenomenal job. That is going to be put on YouTube. If it's not there yet, it will be there soon. All right, so let's jump into the Microsoft 365 updates with the Microsoft Ignite that happened back in what I believe is November, and we didn't actually have a meeting in November. Plenty of updates to kind of pick and choose from, so let's go and jump right into that. Microsoft Viva Glint has new permission settings that can be done, doled out in the Microsoft or M365 Admin Center. Now, everyone, for those of you who are wondering what Microsoft Viva Glint is, great question. I actually had to look it up.
Who is Microsoft?
Yeah, who is Microsoft? It's like, who is Gamora? What is Gamora? Yeah. Why is Gamora? That's right. I forgot about that. So Viva Glint is actually something that a lot of companies want to do and usually use third parties, and that is to actually get the heartbeat of what their employees are feeling about the company. So think of it as a, how do I explain this? Think of it as a
Employee feedback.
Yeah, let's go with employee feedback. I was trying to think of a much better way, but my thesaurus just went offline. Anyways, yeah, and by the way, I'm gonna have fun if it kills everyone else in the room. So hashtag sorry not sorry. Anyways, that's what Viva Glint is. And one of the things that was asked for when it was first brought online was, is there more granular permissions? So there are new permissions in place. There is a highest role, which Viva Glint service admin. So think of it as like a SharePoint admin. So same concept, but it's specific to Viva Glint. And then you also have the service admin roles, which will allow the advanced configuration access. So for those of you who don't know what it is, Microsoft on YouTube actually has a really good video on introduction to what Microsoft Viva Glint is. I would highly recommend taking a look at that if that's something that your company is actually getting, has some interest in, to getting the heartbeat of your employees, associates, etc. Choose how the enter key works in chat. So in the chats and channels settings for Microsoft Teams, and more, you can actually set it up so that you can actually have the space bar or enter actually do something a little different. So if you work in a different way, or you want the space bar to work differently, you want to hit enter. So if I hit enter, I actually want to do a new feed line versus just as automatically post that particular meeting message. And that's the way you can do it. You can actually go into settings and actually say, I want you to override it. If I hit the enter key, I want to make sure that is actually going to feed a new line versus actually do the post immediately. All right, so consultant merge meeting. So this one's interesting. This is for those of you who are using Microsoft phone systems. So if you are using this, this will actually allow you to dial a friend. Yes, I said dial a friend. Welcome to, if you got the $1 million question and you don't know what to do, you can actually reach out, consult with a different line. And let's say I call my subject matter expert from finance because we're talking about something very specific. That's all great and good. And it's like, okay, can you actually tell my client what you just said instead of playing telephone tag? So you can actually merge the two different calls together, and that's what that is.
Wasn't there already?
I could be completely. This has to do with external parties. So if you call someone from an external party, so yeah, I used a really poor example. So if I did a phone a friend, supposedly I could, again, because I do not use it on the reg. That's how I've done it. So anyone who's online or in the room,
I could have sworn that I've done this like years ago.
I'm with you. I'm picking up what you're putting down, but so it might be using a different system.
You know what I think it is? What we've done, and maybe we just did it this way because it was a workaround, is we always just launched a Teams call and then use the dial-up option in Teams to then use a PSTN connection to pull in one audio person.
Right.
That's probably what I'm thinking.
So think of that as similarly. So, for example,
but no need for the video side of it.
Right. Exactly. I think it's the video side of it that
Okay.
So I would like to play around with it. I want to poke it with a stick. So it's kind of interesting, but I could be completely off kilter on that. I will be the first to admit that, but that is the way that it came in. That's how I'm recognizing it. That first bullet point's the one that is throwing me off real hard. So look into this. I definitely would recommend looking into DTMF when For those of you who are Office 365 admins, I would definitely go into the message board, read up on it, and try to correlate to what you're using for PSTN. Sorry. And VoIP. Yeah, no worries. Let's see here. New enrollment dashboard and
Friend calling in.
data deletion controls in the Teams admin center. So again, there's basically there's more things that are being watched and that you can start actually being able to configure and keep an eye on. And so that's what is happening in the Teams admin center. There were some reports, but they always seem to fall short at times. And so what they're doing is they're actually adding to and bolstering the different reports for you to be able to administer in a much better way than you did in the past. So migration tool from Slack to Microsoft Teams. I'm hearing some chuckles in the room, and thank you for everyone who's muted yourselves, so that way we don't break the audio. Long story short, there's a lot of people out there who have Slack systems, Slack solutions in play. However, trying to get it from Slack to Microsoft Teams was a boorish process at best. Either you had to use a third party, or you basically threw a lot of bodies at it, and copy and paste was the best friend ever.
If anybody's still using Slack, it's been like 5 years. I heard about it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So oddly enough, we had a client who you guys may or may not have heard of that uses Slack very heavily, and it's DoorDash.
Oh.
So there are some large companies out there, because of the fact that, like, for example, DoorDash, their drivers are not actually employees. They're individuals who are making a little extra coin. They found the easiest way to interact with those drivers was through the use of Slack, as an example. So there are definitely scenarios out there that does use Slack. However, at the same time, as Microsoft Teams continues to pick up even more momentum than it already has, which COVID from 2020 kind of, put a few rockets on their backside. It's definitely sped up the process. So Microsoft 365 Graph APIs for agent and app management. Microsoft is scrambling because a lot of people still, including myself and the company I work for, still has eye twitches on how to handle and best manage agents, Copilot agents, and so in the app management. So they are actually allowing Graph APIs to connect with those apps and agents now. Yeah, I see some side grins in the room. No, but I get it, and so that's one of the things that we can kind of keep an eye on. So the get agent app catalog and the get specific package metadata is going to be available through Office Graph, and that's coming early to mid-February. It's going to start rolling out to the tenants. And one of the things I've noticed, the rollouts usually take about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the size of the change. Let's see, data security posture agent is now available in preview. So this is, how do I even explain this one? This one I'm still learning. So long as short of it is, these data security posture agent is something that runs to keep an eye on Copilot to ensure that you're not leaking data or drawing in data that you shouldn't be drawing in.
So I think from my understanding though, Purview's always had an issue with labeling, right, and understanding content.
Yep.
There's only so many, rules in there that they have.
Yep.
So this is really switching to using LLMs to get the context of the document and truly be able to label it.
Yes.
Versus false positive labeling, which is a huge improvement, because if any of you have done work with Purview, it's a great tool, but unless you use something like Varonis or Sierra to do the labeling, it's very limited.
Yeah, great point, Chuck. The long and the short of it is Purview is really good at certain things where you can make certain policies. And as long as you understand what you're trying to accomplish, like social security numbers, credit card numbers,
The easy stuff.
easy stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as understanding context of use, a lot of times you get false positives, like a phone number. If ends up, triggering, for example, let's say phone 10 digits. So yeah,
Especially an international one.
yeah, international ones will either be flagged as a social security number
Social Security.
or a credit card number, depending on if it's external.
I see lots of international numbers getting flagged as social security numbers and triggering.
Yep. And so that's where the data security posture agent is filling in basically a huge gap in the security for your agent, both your Copilot, the Copilot utilization as well as your agents. So it's something definitely to keep in mind. It's not going to replace Purview, but
It's going to enhance Purview.
what's that?
This will definitely enhance Purview.
Yeah, it's an enhancement. Just like other things, like for example, the Power Platform, you're going to be doing a lot of configuration for agents in Power Platform for Copilot Studio. There's a lot of different things that you're going to have to keep in mind. There's a lot of moving pieces. Microsoft right now feels like it's scrambling to try to have a unified experience across but the thing is the security is in so many different places right now, and there's a lot of gaps, and a lot of companies are trying to have Microsoft actually deal with those gaps, and they're doing a great job, but there's a lot more to cover, as you can kind of imagine.
They also keep reconfiguring the interface, which is driving me mad.
Oh yeah, don't get used to the interface because give it 10, 9, 8.
Yeah,
I mean,
I leave myself explicit notes on how to get to certain panels. And then when I come back to do a
It's not
follow-up
there.
audit in 6 months,
it's not there.
the setting's completely gone. It's been renamed. You have no idea, is that a new product or is that a rebranding of an old product? Where the hell are the old settings?
Yeah.
And I've even had an instance where I tried to get into a lit hold case
Yep.
that I created for a client.
Yep.
And it told me that I didn't have permission to access it.
That one's a fun one. Yeah.
And I read through all of the tech documents on what groups I needed to now add myself to, even though I was a global admin.
Global admin is not good enough.
I understand,
especially-
I understand, and I'm actually kind of for that. That's
Yeah,
fine. Except that the documentation was completely wrong about all of the groups because I was already in those groups, or half of the groups did not exist. that it
Correct.
was suggesting.
A lot of the roles have changed as well. So anyone who's an Office 365 admin, you got to keep on the message center, because I'll tell you right now, the changes are going to come fast and furious as AI continues to dominate.
Right, but the point that I wanted to make is that the people that are updating the documentation side
They can't keep
are
up.
not keeping up with the changes. So there's a disconnect between the documentation and the changes,
Yep.
and that makes it impossible to actually, do my job.
Yeah, and that's fair, and that's something Microsoft, I believe, is hearing quite a bit of. But I
I've said it to them
tell
several times.
people to always use the feedback. Always use the feedback. You have to it's not user voice
It's
anymore.
not, I was gonna say, but they got rid of user voice, so you can't do that either.
They don't. There's a thing out there. It's not user voice anymore, but you
It's
get
not
the idea.
consistent either.
So yeah, agreed. So something to keep in mind.
Sorry. I'll
No,
get off my
it's-
soapbox.
No,
Which
it's
That hits a really sore nerve for me because I have multiple clients that have dealt with data breaches and are now in a cycle of doing regular audits.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm trying to help them, and I feel like Microsoft is fighting me every single step of the way.
understood. Let's see here. User voice list, see others' feedback and notice and vote as well. There's a new one out there. I forgot what it's called. It does the same thing as user voice. Basically, I think it's just user voice, but rebranded. I'll see if I can find it and and get that out. All right. SharePoint embedded apps can now archive containers to reduce storage costs and improve Copilot results. Archive containers, yeah. So again,
New words.
take this with a huge grain of salt, probably a salt like you usually put out for deer. But the long and the short of it is the embedded apps. I'm talking about, solutions that that have the packages attached to it. I'm going to make the assumption it falls within that category.
That sounds more like a Power Apps thing than a SharePoint thing.
No, I'm talking about solutions, SharePoint solutions. Now, I've also heard that SharePoint solutions are going away in around April 1st. Yeah, I know. So keep an eye on that one as well, especially if you build solutions. That is something that may or may not be going away April 1st as well. So I will keep you guys abreast of that. That was something that I learned as well. So from a coworker, actually. Anyways, so the long and the short of it is from these embedded apps, whatever spaces they took, they're actually doing it in such a way they're basically shrinking them, meaning they're compressing them. So that way it will improve the Copilot results, because stuff technically inside these apps a lot of time is just code and stuff like that the Copilot's not going to return. So therefore they're trying to make it so that Copilot is more efficient and faster. I'm not sure how many of you guys have used Copilot and you felt like you could time it with a calendar. You ask it a question and you walk away, shave, get yourself a coffee, come back, realize you need another shave, go, you get the idea. I think a lot of it has to do with how much information Copilot's trying to consume, and they're trying to find ways to improve the speed of Copilot responding to your questions. All right, huge thanks for those of you who are here eating pizza for Turn Digital. Very much appreciated. All right, so let's jump into it. Let's get into the main event. So Chuck Salvo is going to be presenting Microsoft Fabric, your next level data intelligence platform. All right, so let me unshare, stop sharing rather. And then, yeah, go for it. Not super.
Alrighty, everyone can see my screen? All right. Thank you all for coming. My name is Chuck Salvo. I'm the VP of Sales at CloudPoint. We are located up in Maine. We've got 14 people in the organization, and we provide services around the M365 stack. So with that, right there. Okay. So up top, basically business analytics, business applications. So we cover Dynamics Business Central, Dynamics ERP, Dynamics CRM, data and analytics, which we'll be talking about today, Microsoft Fabric, artificial intelligence, Microsoft Copilot, Copilot Studio, Microsoft's agentic framework, so we can help with that. Collaboration and productivity, really the basis for where the company started a couple years back. SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, Microsoft Viva, really getting that modern workplace set up. Also Microsoft 365 services, so licensing, migration, things like that. Endpoint management, so Intune, Autopilot, VDI, and cloud infrastructure, so Microsoft Azure and everything in Azure. And lastly, security and compliance. So a lot of Microsoft Purview, a lot of Defender. But long story short, the organization is focused around getting companies to use everything in the M365 stack and how to make the most of it. So why are we here? We're going to be talking about Microsoft Fabric. But before we do, we're going to talk a little bit about how we got there. So we started out with the evolution from SQL to Delta Lake. So those of you familiar with SQL, structured query language, right? What's the problem with it? It's table driven, and it doesn't really scale well when we get into the internet age with the amount of data that we're dealing with. So with that, you've probably heard of Hadoop file system and whatnot. The latest piece of that was created by Databricks. It's called Delta Lake. So Delta Lake gives us the ability to really scale up to petabytes and terabytes of information and separating storage from compute. So there'll be lots of demos. We're going to jump into Fabric, but we'll just give you a little history here. All right. So Delta Lake, the foundation of Fabric. Delta Lake is an open source implementation. So there's an open source body that's basically covering this, includes all sorts of performance enhancements. And again, it's that next level file system. I won't get too in depth into the features of it, but I really want to focus more on the demonstration of Microsoft Fabric. So along with Delta Lake, we have Apache Spark. So again, if you're not familiar with Spark, the idea behind this is that we now can bring up compute clusters to perform actions as opposed to before when we just had a SQL server, right? We'd have a SQL server, we'd crank it up with memory, we'd be like, great, we can do transactions, we can give you data. This is a different solution now because now we can basically bring in all sorts of different files in the file system inside of Apache and basically load that up into memory and form operations. So you'll see over here, there's a couple of operations that get performed. Data ingestion, transformation, analytics, and output. So anytime we're working inside of Fabric and we're doing things, we're basically going to be using compute. So it's a different model versus, like we said, a traditional SQL server that you spin up and get the most amount of memory, the most amount of cores. I remember I had a client that they built this huge financial application. The only way they could scale it up was to get a bigger SQL server because all their logic was in the stored procedures. So, right, the logic's next to the data, it's super fast. What's the problem? It doesn't scale. So they'd have to go to HP and be like, what's the biggest thing you could get? You know, it had 8 nodes at that time. I mean, eight processors and 128 gigs of memory. It's not a scalable solution, right? So hence the reason we've got these modern capabilities in here. All right. So Microsoft Fabric, complete platform. So we talked about the Lakehouse, right? The next one here is the data factory. It's our ability to bring data in to the Lakehouse and into the warehouse and work with it. The next one is Power BI, right? Our data visualization. And then the next one is real-time intelligence. So we can actually, with Microsoft Fabric, bring in real-time data. So if we've got IoT sensors, we've got anything that's basically spitting off a lot of information, we can actually use Microsoft Fabric to ingest those data points. So one platform covers it all. We can also do SQL, we can do Cosmos DB. But again, we'll go over all these different features. All right, so let's take a quick break. So I'm in Fabric right now, and if you look at it, it basically looks like Power BI. I mean, in fact, it is app.powerbi.com, right? So the first thing over here is everything has a workspace. So you'll see over here I have workspaces. You'll see little diamonds next to them. These are premium, right? So this is Fabric content. So if I'm in this workspace right here, I click on workspace settings, ton of stuff over here. Git integration, for those of you that are familiar with Git. And the big thing here is the license info. So you'll see over here, if I click on edit, I can change what's available to me. I can put it in pro, I can put it in trial, or I can select a Fabric capacity. So Fabric capacities are basically purchased through Azure. So you actually associate a Fabric capacity to your workspaces. So you purchase it in Azure, and then it's available to you in your workspaces to associate it. So you can have more than one workspace associated with capacity. You could have multiple capacities and assign those to different workspaces as well. So you've got a lot of flexibility in that. So if I click on new item over here, this is going to get you an idea of what some of the capabilities are. We're not going to go into all of them because literally there's just too many at this point. When I first started with Fabric, I think there was like 10 items on this. And you can see here as I just scroll through it quickly, there's a lot of capabilities. So let's just start at the top. So the first one here is your visualize data, right? Pretty much your report. So this is Power BI reporting. You can do scorecards, you can do real-time dashboards, paginated reports. You can do dashboards which will pull report pieces in. Next one, we've got getting data, right? So this is really the big thing. How do we bring our data into Fabric and get working with it? So one way is basically using these different flows. You got copy jobs, data flows, Gen 1 and 2, pipelines, notebooks, event streams, and Spark jobs. So let's stop real quick and let's talk about some of these things. So This right here is a data flow. Now, if you've ever used Power BI, basically the same type of data editor, right? Same type of functionality. So it's good. Microsoft is kind of standardizing on these tools, making things easy. The caveat here is that when you're doing these data flows, it is pretty much a one-to-one thing. I've got a table in my source system. I'm going to put it into a table in the other system. It doesn't really get into a lot of complex gyrations, right? I can go through here and I can make changes, right? I can filter, I can remove things, so on and so forth as I go through this, but it's really intended for bring it from the source, bring it to the destination. You'll see over here, we've got a data destination. If I click on this, right, you'll see it's already plugged into the warehouse, right? Because I said, all right, we're going to pull it, send it to a warehouse. Click next, warehouse. Say customers. So it's going to basically bring up a sample of the data here. Hit next, basic field mapping. And am I doing a append or replace? So pretty straightforward. I can hit save settings, and then I'm off and running. And what I would end up doing here is I would say close this, save, run, close. So at that point there, I can basically transfer my data, get it in from any source I want. So the next one I want to show you is a pipeline. Here, you'll see the interface is completely different, right? Before we had on the left-hand side, we had tables, right-hand side, where it's going to go. Here I have the ability to do a lot more complex options, right? So I can go in here and I can do copy data. I can do more data flows. I can also bring in, I can invoke other pipelines. So this one, we'll just show you this one real quick. It's copy data. My source over here was actually a JSON file. So this is coming from the FDIC. It's a public data set. And again, just showing you examples of different data that we can bring in. Come on, preview. All right. I love when the demo fails. Well, we'll just talk about the destination. So you'll see over here, I'm pushing it right into this Lakehouse, and then I've got a mapping over here, very similar, right? Here's my source, here's my destination. And again, it's just a huge data set from the FDIC, but just a way to consume public data. So we've talked about the Lakehouse. Let's bring that up. So you'll see over here on the left-hand side, we have tables, right? But the difference here now is we have files also. The difference here is that when we're talking about the files, I can bring in any sort of file into Fabric, right? I've got storage in here that is extremely cheap, and I can bring in video files. I can bring in JSON files. I can bring in image files. And why would I want to bring these into Fabric? Well, what if I'm doing some machine learning? What if I'm doing some AI? What if I'm doing some transformational things where I'm using AI to extract how many people are in an image, right? To get the metadata out of there, where I'm going to put that in the Lakehouse. So again, the idea here is that Delta Lake gives us the ability to bring in structured and unstructured data in one platform. And we talked about it a little bit earlier when we talked about the Parquet files. So if I go in here and I click on View Files, Parquet files, okay. Table view, file view. Really different, right? So I mean, if you open these up, they're basically Parquet's column of data. But what happens here is by using Delta Lake, it has the ability to take its data and spread it out in any way it wants, right? Traditionally in SQL, you'd have MDF and LDF files, master data files, log data files, right? You had 8 cores on a SQL server, you'd have 8 MDF files, right? Now I don't have that problem. Basically, Delta takes care of all the file manipulations, and it re-optimizes these files based on its own indexing. You can do clustered indexing, and there's a couple of other ways to tune this and get more performance. There's a ton of ways to tweak this. But long story short, again, when we're talking about the ability to scale to petabytes of files, I can dump as much as I want in here, and Delta Lake can consume it, bring it into memory, process it, and do what it needs. Any questions?
You said bring it to memory as in?
So cool part, right? Petabyte of data,
Yeah.
load it all up in memory. Do your processing on it, do you, whatever you want on it, and then spin it down, right? Because we can bring up a Spark cluster, scale it up as big as we want, ingest all the data we want,
Okay.
do our calculations, spin it down. So what's cool about that, we'll talk about it later on, is Fabric has what's known as capacities. And these capacities give you the ability to do auto scaling. So I can go in there and get a smaller instance, and again, we'll get to the pricing later on, and do something crazy, just a quick spike, but I'm not going to get charged the top end. So very cool features to get you what you need to deal with the data.
As far as flexibility is concerned, what you mentioned SQL databases. Am I correct in assuming that you can add all kinds of other databases as well?
Yeah.
So
So
if I have a vector database or not a
No,
graph
so-
database rather?
you can't do the vectors. You still got to do Azure Search for the vector. So let me show you that. So storing data, right? Cosmos DB, Lakehouse, SQL database. This is relatively new. The Cosmos DB came out, I want to say 7 or 8 months ago. SQL is 3 or 4 months ago. We've got an event house, right? And then you'll see this semantic model. So I'm going to stop right there. Does that answer your questions over in FAD's storage and capability?
Yeah.
So SQL's cool. The SQL capability is cool. It's great. It's got a simple little UI. If I was going to be building an application where I had thousands and thousands of users, I'm not going to use Fabric to do that. I'm going to do a separate isolated SQL. This is more of a, all right, I just need some SQL in my Fabric because I'm doing some different manipulations, whatever it is. Now, again, it's just one platform with all these capabilities. So to talk about the semantic model real quick.
Can you help me understand this a little
Yeah.
bit? So when I have data sets,
Mhm.
any sort of files with lots of data in it,
Mhm.
I just take them, toss them into my AI bot and start asking questions, have them make me charts and whatnot off that,
Yep.
and then that's enough for me.
Mhm.
What's the difference here?
So the difference here is,
Scale?
yeah, scale. You
Okay.
can't, your context window inside of AI is small. Gemini just came out today, I think, with a 100 megabyte context window,
Okay.
but you can't put a petabyte of data into that context. So that's the big
That's
thing.
the difference.
But I will show you some AI in here
Okay.
with an agent inside of Fabric. So we will get to that. Good question, though. Any other questions? All right, so real quick, we talked about the Lakehouse, right? So we store data in the Delta Lake format, and really it is that raw layer. But if I go in here, I also have a warehouse. So the warehouse, the idea behind the warehouse is, it basically gives me the ability to create like a cube. So I can do summaries, I can do measures, I can do more advanced things. And if for those of you that are familiar with the medallion architecture, which is a bronze, silver, gold. So bronze basically being that raw layer, right? We bring in our files, bring them into the lake, we process them, we might put them into another lake house for consumption. And then lastly, we would have a gold layer, which would be consumption for our business developers and our end users who are doing reporting. So that would be the gold layer, which would be running in the warehouse. So again, here's the demo warehouse, right? So if I go in here, I click on the DBO, I click on the tables, right? It looks like SQL, right? It's got, there's a table, right? There's customers, no big deal in here. But what happens now is if I go to my model now is basically, I put it in editing so we can get a little bit more fun. Because, we should edit things. My model basically allows me to create relationships. My model also gives me a layer of abstraction to my data, right? And this is a big thing. So if you're following Microsoft with the IQ thing, Foundry IQ, Fabric IQ, M365 IQ, is that the other one? There's 3 of them. So this is the big announcement from Microsoft. But what is that really, what is it doing there? It's basically exposing the data, the schema, to AI so we can understand what's going on. So let's talk about that because agents are fun, right? So we've got our warehouse over there. We've got our relationships. In fact, we'll just go over it one more time. I want to show you this. So you'll also see in here, come on, I've got measures, right? So I've got active load count. Oh, don't tell me that. Right, so I've got all these different measures in here, total fraud transactions, fraud rates, so on and so forth. So again, this is a layer above just my raw data. So we're getting into more calculations here. Let me show you the report that actually is feeding this, right? So this is the pretty, this is the stuff that looks good. This is what the end users care about, right? All the other fancy stuff is great for the data engineering team, but at the end of the day, reports are the key. So this is a report that I built off of this data set. And it's, you know, for Power BI users, you've seen this before, right? I can click on it, I can drill through it. I can see, you know, who's spending money at Market Basket, who's spending money at Dunkin' Donuts, so on and so forth. Nice drill through. Over here, if I click on this, this is Q&A. This is a legacy feature of Power BI. Still nice though, right? Top age ranges by fraud. I click on it, builds a chart for me. Right. So nice visualization. But what if I could actually just talk to that data, right? Like, you know, the chart's great, but I want a different answer. And I don't know where that report is, and I'm on the road, but I need an answer, and I need an answer right now. So what I can do is I can go in. Where's my agent? Come on, agent. There you go. All right. So I've got an agent, right? Everybody's got agents. Microsoft agent, right? If you can watch anything with Microsoft and someone doesn't say agent for 5 minutes, let me know, because that's all I hear about, right? It's agent, it's MCP. How do we make all this stuff work together? We're gonna have all these agents. Great. So how do we get our agent to work? So what's great about this is I've gone in here and basically said, all right, agent, let me give you some data sources. I can click on add data source, everything in my organization, right? Warehouses, lakehouses. And this is actually spanning, if you look at it, all of my workspaces. So if you look over here, I've got agent instructions, which is basically a prompt, pretty straightforward. And I'm basically saying, hey, agent, I want you to understand these tables. So by picking these out of my model, it basically makes it available to the agent to understand what's in there, all the fields, and how to query it. And if I click over here, this banking ontology, this is the latest thing from Microsoft. And again, back to that IQ piece, when we talked about Fabric IQ, the ontology now is this new layer that sits on top of the semantic model. So again, more abstraction to enable AI to understand the data. So when you look over here, we got too much stuff. Oh, right in front of me.
Quick question.
Yes.
How do you get to the agent? I think in the click new and then go to create an agent or something like that?
That's it. So you'll back over here. Come back here real quick. New item.
Yeah.
So again, kind of going down, we had the get data, we get the store data, prepare data, right? Azure Data Factory capabilities, and analyze and train data. So data agent right there. There's also an operations agent. This is brand new. I just found this out today. This is even crazier. The operations agent works with your real-time data. So you can go in there and take real-time data and be like, hey, if the temperature rises above 42 degrees in this room, right? It's a refrigerated room, immediately notify this, right? So now it can basically be sitting there in an IoT stream, looking at all this data, and when it gets triggered, it's like, all right, I have to do this action. So what's great about this is you're not writing code anymore, right? And I think this is the future, right? Writing code is just going to be a thing of the past. It's writing prompts, working with AI to generate its code, to generate its functionality. It's happening now. It's not going to stop. So we're going to be working with more and more agents for them to do things.
So do we need Fabric like F2, F4 instance to create an agent?
So cool part about Fabric, all the instances, all the capacities have the same capability across all of them. So about 7 or 8 months ago, it was like the F64 was kind of the de facto. If you want Copilot, you needed F64. If you wanted Power BI License Pro for everyone, F64. All the capabilities are the same across all the instances, including embedding it, right, using it for public consumption. Copilot is on all of them now, so there's no limitation.
So we are primarily Microsoft Shop, and we are a Power BI, we have tons of dashboards, Power BI, the cloud, Power BI service.
Yep. very
We're
expensive.
not Fabric, what do you call, not Fabric, like we haven't subscribed to any of the F2, F3, F4 kind of.
Yep.
Can we build an agent on top of the data semantic model that we upload?
You would have to move that to a Fabric workspace.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so everything has to be in the Fabric workspace at that point. Which Power BI Premium are you using? What capacity? Did like the 8.3? I forget the premium capacities. They're expensive.
Yeah, it's premium. We have E file license.
So you get the Power BI Pro for all your end users.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, the capacities are much different. What was it, P1, I think you get 8 cores, P2, 16, P3, you get 24. But let's just say yeah, exactly. What he said, right there.
All right, so again, capacity, pricing, all these things, this is a huge and important part of Microsoft Fabric. What we do when we engage with customers, we use the F64 trial instance. You can do it for 90 days. And you can use the performance analyzer once you start getting your data in there to understand your true size. Now, they're not cheap. They're not cheap. So the F64 is $8,400 a month, right? The F256 is $33,600. Yeah, not cheap. The F2 starter pack, $262. Now, here's the thing. All these are available with a 40% discount if you do an RI. Reserved instance is basically you're committing to purchase that capacity. Why does Microsoft do this? Because at the end of the day, what are we selling? We're selling CPUs and GPUs. That's all Microsoft does, right? We're selling storage, we're selling compute. So they're trying to make it easier, but they're also trying to get you to lock in. Because if they know what the demand is, they can figure out their purchasing, they can figure out the build, so on and so forth. So again, if you are looking to do this, start with the F2 or the F64 trial. Try it out, build it out, size it up, but understand the costs that you're looking at. And again, there's a bunch of ways to reduce those costs, to reduce consumption, but it takes tuning, it takes performance. All right. Did I miss anything?
Quick thing.
Oh, data engineering and notebooks too. Yes.
Yeah, so right on this screen, I just wanted to call out to my previous question. Graph model is now listed there in preview.
Yes.
That's what I was looking for. That's awesome.
Let's take a look at it. I haven't had a chance to play with this. But from my understanding,
No, that's fine.
But this gets us the ability to sync graph API data, or is this just a great graph database? Build a
I
graph.
have no idea.
Oh no, it is. It's a vector, right? It's a graph database. I got nodes and edges.
Graph database with a vector index, probably.
Yeah. There you go, folks. Brand new, probably just came out this week.
Yeah. Right.
Microsoft is putting a lot of effort into Fabric. I can tell you that. It's grown tremendously. I've had customers that have done Databricks implementations next to Fabric. Big retailer, they had the F128 SKU. Databricks for them had different features and functionality, but they actually integrated both of them. So Databricks has a thing called, what is the catalog? Unity catalog. So what they're doing is, what they're trying to basically do is expose the data across. So we've had, I'm trying to think of the architecture, but the latest architecture that I've seen is data mesh, right? So everyone's responsible for this silo of data. Say I'm in charge of sales, Michael's in charge of operations. He operates a silo of data. I operate a silo of data, right? We're data stewards, but we're going to mesh. We're going to allow and expose that so people can get access to it. I lost my train of thought there. There was a purpose. But long
I'm
story
guessing
short,
you're going to start talking about siloing data and
thank
still
you.
being able to extract.
the Unity catalog, yes. So the goal there is to basically use something like a Fabric or a Databricks to be that front end to where that data is. Right? Instead of having to be like, all right, Michael, where is your data? And where's this person's data and that person's data in this organization? Now you go to the Unity catalog, you publish your catalog, publish your data to the catalog, everyone has access to it. So you're going to see more and more of that interoperability between Databricks and Fabric. And depending on your workload, one of those might be better than the other.
So to that end, how is security managed?
So
Does Fabric
security,
add its own layer of security?
Yes,
Or does
yes.
it rely on whatever the host systems?
no.
Yeah,
Once the data is brought in, security is there. But I can tell you this, they're getting tighter. So they're getting into more of an object level security. Right now it's workspace. Yes. So let me get back to the agent real quick because I think you guys will appreciate this. So over here, you can see I did some sample questions over here. Right. What is the loan amount outstanding? So it's a banking data set, right? So back to our little report. So we've got loans, we've got age ranges, we've got merchant activity, so on and so forth. So when we go back to our agent, we can ask it any sort of question, right? Please break down by age. So you can see that I'm really not prefacing it with anything as far as I'm giving it the absolute minimal amount of information, but because it understands, because of the model and the ontology, it understands how to interact with the data. And because it has this layer, it doesn't really care about where the data is. It just knows that if I go to the semantic model, I can get access to the tables. So pushing this one step further, if I go over here to settings and I go to publishing and I go to model context protocol, right? So again, MCP, when I go and publish this, if I go publish this, you'll see here also publish to the agent store. Pretty slick. Right? So if I come over here, I go to my chat, and I go to my co-pilots. Oh, hello, there's the bank demo agent. My goodness. And it worked. So when I did this first time, threw it on there, within like a minute, it showed up my co-pilot agents. Pretty slick, right? Easy to get it out there in the enterprise. Show me the top merchants. What do we see? Connecting to data agent MCP server. Anyone familiar with MCP?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Model context protocol, basically the USB-C of basically AI to connect the APIs, right? So everything's MCP driven. There's a lot of A2A that we're hearing now, agent to agent, there's agent UI kit, there's more and more AI features and functionality coming out. Come on, let's go. Don't fail me now. There we go. So what's interesting about this is that if you look at it, once this finishes here, and what's really cool is it's showing you the thought process, right? We're actually writing PyScript right here, and we're generating a visual. But if you go into the UI over here, and you're like, hey, give me a chart of this, it just gives it plain text. So again, just funny that like this chat window over here isn't supporting the full card, effect that you're getting versus this.
So this agent, was it built on the Power BI semantic model or
Yes.
just the data source, like plain data?
It's you can point it to any data source, right? But I pointed to the semantic model and the ontology, therefore it's the highest layer. It's not getting into it. But yes, I could have pointed to the Lakehouse. I could have pointed right to the warehouse. It's pretty slick. And again, like I said, now as an end user, I have access now to BI information. I don't need to go to the report writer. I don't need to go to the Power BI team. I just need an answer. Here we go. Quick and easy. All right, notebooks. Last thing I want to show you here. So when I built this, I said I wanted synthetic data. I'm like, all right, let's create some synthetic data so we can load this up. So what I used was a notebook. Anyone familiar with notebooks?
What do you mean by notebook?
Like
OneNote?
no. These are what's the
No.
official name?
Jupyter Lab.
Yeah,
Jupyter Hub.
yeah. So basically, the idea is they're more of like a Python notebook. You can run different languages. So over here, I've got a notebook open. You'll see over here, I've already got, so I could add data items, right? So there's the bank demo Lakehouse. I can pick my different languages, right? I can do Spark, SQL, Python. I'm doing PySpark over here. But what's cool about this, you'll see over here when I have to connect compute, right? So I can do standard, I can do high concurrency. So when I click on this, what it's doing right now is it's starting a Spark session for me, right? Again, separation of storage, separation of logic, separation of, all these different things that give us the ability to scale. But I can go in here now that I've got this, and let's do this. We'll run this cell. So what happens here is I can run individual cells. A cell is basically a collection of commands, right? Python commands, PySpark commands, whatever it is. I'm loading some modules over here, and all I'm really doing here is I'm just doing a select statement. So you'll see it takes a little while, right? But it's cool. Spark job progress. So you can see everything that's going on. Oh, looks like I didn't do something right here. I don't want to run this because it's going to go over. All right, long story short, notebooks are a great way to write code to do even more advanced capabilities. So I could go in here and I could say, all right, give me all the customers. I can make calls to OpenAI, right? Create a prompt, roll through my records, update records, things like that. So, and also, like we talked about earlier, I could use this notebook to load up a data frame, right? I can load up that petabyte of data, work with it, try different things, visualize some data, and then close it out and be done with it. So again, notebooks are a very powerful part of Fabric for data manipulation. All right, I think that is it. Any other questions?
So I've heard some people call Fabric the next gen of Power BI, but when you and I were talking about that, then you're like, yeah, no, that's not true. What's your take on it? Because a lot of people do lean on that statement that Microsoft Fabric is the next gen of Power BI, but it looks as though it's
So Power BI is a visualization layer, right?
right.
But data flows, one of the things you use to bring data into Power BI is kind of this, utility.
Yeah.
But I think it's all Microsoft's data estate, right? Their modern data estate, Azure Data Factory is kind of gone, right? They've brought it into pipelines, into flows. I mean, it's still in there for more advanced features and people that have built it. But at the end of the day, everything's going to end up in Fabric, and it's just going to be what capacity do you want and how much you want of it.
So I guess a better way of saying it, Fabric is a support agent of Power BI visualization.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, because you could use Power BI with any data source, right?
True. That's very true.
But the problem is that if you're not running like Power BI Premium, right, where you've got some capacity to bring in bigger data models, it doesn't scale out that good.
And even then, one of the things that our company dealt with, even with capacities, was the fact that the number of times that it would had to auto scale because of the amount of data.
Yep.
It was getting to the point where it was starting to get really expensive because they're like, okay, there's a limitation here. So I definitely have seen them starting to go back to the drawing board now that Fabric is out as a potential way to ease that issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, back to that customer that I was talking about earlier, they were a Power BI Premium shop, and they just, I forget what they were buying, but it was like the biggest Power BI Premium, and they're like, we can't even fit all of that data in this model.
No.
And that's the problem. So yes, if you're scaling up, if you're going to get into multiple data sources, if you want advanced features and functionality, Fabric's the way to go. If you're a small shop and you've got 2 or 3 data sources and you just need some nice reports, just keep it in Power BI. For $10 a month, or I think it's up to 15 now, or it's free if you just use it on the desktop. So it all depends on your needs. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, I have a question. If you have on-premise data, what's the quickest way to get it into Fabric?
You would use, the on-premise data gateway, and basically you can ingest your data using that. So you'd have a safe, secure tunnel to grab your data. I'm assuming you've got SQL Server?
Yes.
Now, well, there's also another option. I'll show you this real quick. there's mirroring. And as someone from Massachusetts who drops his R's, it's very hard for me to say that word because there's so many R's in there. But long story short, this is a new feature. What this allows you to do, and you'll see it right over here, right? Microsoft SQL Server. I can actually take this and mirror data from a SQL Server. So this is a new feature. You saw when I went in there earlier, there's other data sets that you can bring in. So if you've got Snowflake, we've got a lot of customers, especially in finance, they've got Snowflake and they're like, well, Chuck, I don't want to take apart my Snowflake, but I want to use Fabric for machine learning and I want to use it for the data agent. We can mirror that data, basically access that data in Fabric without having to bring the data over. So you've got a couple of options. Depending on, again, your use case, you could either ingest it with the on-premise data gateway or you could use the SQL mirroring.
Is that the same on-premise gateway that we currently use just for Azure SQL, or is there a different gateway for Fabric?
I believe it's the same exact data gateway.
It's the same one with a different service enabled.
Thank you
yeah.
so much.
There's another question online. Nilan?
Yeah, hi. So we're looking into data governance implementations and also Fabric implementation on the same side. How well does Purview work with Fabric, where the data is coming from multiple sources? And how well does it work for governance?
So Fabric and Purview have been working together, I'd say, for over a year plus. We're seeing tighter and tighter integration, but that is our go-to governance platform. It's basically Purview with Fabric together. Because you've got your unstructured data and your SharePoint, your OneDrive, your Teams conversations, your emails, right? And now you've got your structured data in in Fabric. So Purview works really good. I do not have a demo of it, but if that is something you want to see, I can definitely set that up. Yes, sir.
So apparently Dave and I are sharing a
Thank you.
brain today because he stole my question. Because I'm also very interested in how this is being positioned relative to other 365 products. So you mentioned that you foresee them continuing to use Power BI as the visual component for the front end.
Yes.
What about Dataverse? How would this relate to Dataverse?
So Dataverse actually has a built-in sync to OneLake. So you can replicate the data like just real time. Yeah.
Sure.
No.
Okay.
All we need is one more connector. We could just go around in circles. It'd be fabulous.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work with Dataverse. It's a great solution, right? It's, what was it, Dynamic CRM, then it turned into the Dataverse and Power Platform and all the cool stuff, solutions and whatnot. But yeah, there is a native integration inside the Power Platform to push your Dataverse into OneLake and make life easy.
I guess what I'm asking is if you were to look into your crystal ball and say 2-3 years from now, do you think Dataverse will still be a product or would it just be consumed by this?
No, Dataverse is definitely going to be a part of Microsoft's ecosystem.
Okay.
They've done a tremendous amount of work for it to scale, for it to build applications. And we're seeing, like Microsoft Business Central, from my understanding now, runs on Dataverse. F&O is running on Dataverse. They're doing everything they can to standardize around Dataverse as that structured data platform, right? You can do model, you can do Canvas. There's a lot of things you can do. So we're not seeing any slowdown from what I see in regards to adoption of the Dataverse. We're just going to see, you're going to see Dataverse, you're going to see AI, you're going to see Fabric. Those are going to be your big things that are basically, Dataverse is going to be your app layer, right? Power Pages has this new feature where you can basically go in there and just write the application you want to build.
Yeah.
Well, now it's actually building, writing code, right? But again, so now if I take that with the Dataverse, I've got a nice, easy way to create data stores, create relationships, entities, all that other stuff. So yeah, I'd say those are your big ones.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
So you're saying that the data can come from many sources.
Yes.
So must they have the same schema?
No.
Oh, so
You can do all the
Fabric would-
transformations. Yes, you can
So
split
you-
things. Yep.
Different schemas, they'll just join, connect.
You could do anything you want in regards to that. So if you had like a table from here and a table from here, and you were bringing those in, you're like, I want 3 columns from here, I want 4
Okay,
columns in there. You
okay.
can do a join and basically join on those rows, create that in a new table. So
So
any sort of data
You do
manipulations.
something like the left join, outer join
Yes.
for you. Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Let me share something real quick. So if I go into here.
All the fun of Power Query.
Yeah. So I just want to show you this. We're going to say get data from another source. We're going to say view more. So this just gives you an idea of the breadth of connectors that we can get into. Right? LinkedIn Learning, Viva Insight. What else do we have in here?
Combo
Hive.
64.
Yes, no Commodore 64 adapter. But I'm sure if we wrote an MCP,
Azure.
we could put an MCP server in front of it, and we could use that as a data source, and it'll,
Yeah, that is actually true. We could pull it off.
But yes, a lot of capabilities. What I would say is that would be more of a pipeline feature than so much of a data flow Gen 2. But again, the devil's in the details, depending on how you wanted to implement it.
I was very impressed when you say that you can load all the data into memory, no matter how big. But you're talking about query. You're not talking about updating because that would be.
No, so that's, yes,
Yeah,
this is.
it's like, okay, it doesn't
Big-
make sense.
So it's very interesting because it supports ACID, right? The atomic, consistent,
Yeah.
the whole acronym there. But it's really not, I still see SQL servers as your OLTP, right? People are building their applications on SQL servers. People are using Delta Lake for reporting. So basically reading, doing all reads, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Any other questions? All right, awesome. Well, thank you all very much.
Share.
Yay.
Awesome, Chuck. Thanks for that.
I recycled on
And
it.
we may end up calling you
Windows
back for the
7
other
and
stuff that
stuff.
we started to touch on. You never know.
Oh, yeah?
All
I
right.
recently found while cleaning my house
All right. So we have
I
a
am-
call for speakers. So if you are interested in speaking, and that includes people remote,
T-shirt.
if you guys have something you want to talk about, feel free to reach out to us. I'll leave this on the screen for a wee bit. Either use the QR code or that bit.ly right there. Next month actually is available. However, I've got a couple prospects. As soon as we lock one of them down, we will have that on our website. So stay tuned for that. I've got several speakers that have shown interest and are MVPs and are pretty exciting speakers. So look forward to that as well. But we are always looking for new speakers. Don't feel like you haven't been around long enough. If you have something of interest that you think that the others in the community might like, feel free to offer speaking, because there's always a bonus to those who actually breathe new blood into the speaking circuit. Don't feel like you have to be OG.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here.
You can just go up there and talk about the mistakes that you've made for the past hour, and it's super helpful to others.
It basically turns into a therapy session for everyone else who did the exact same thing you
It
did.
really does.
Seriously. So yeah, that's.
My favorite saying, learn from the mistake of others. Life's too short to make them all yourself.
Oh, don't worry, I'm trying, but.
It's core.
All right, so all the way back to November. I should have probably cleaned this slide up. Missed it by that much. So apparently, Chuck, you've been named TBD. Congratulations.
That'd be amazing.
All right, so I'm gonna have to work on that.
Tidbit.
This is not the slide you're looking for. Anyway, upcoming computing events. All right, so wow,
I was
October
still saying-
2020. I'm doing fabulous. It's possible I got an older version. I downloaded the older version, which is highly likely because that's how I roll. Anyways, there is stuff coming up this new year. So Microsoft Ignite will probably be in November again, 2026. And most likely the Power Platform will be showing up in Vegas, not necessarily Vegas because they like to move around, probably in the month of October. So we'll leave it at that.
How about CES? You got any CES news?
CES.
It just finished up.
Consumer
Lots
electric.
of robots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It tastes like chicken. Anyway.
I didn't see that robot.
All right, let's see here. As far as latest 365 and Power Platform communities, there is plenty of them out there. Go to pnp.github.io. There is a lot of amazing things out there. Check it out. Let's see, we got the Women IT Pros. They're monthly. You can look them up on LinkedIn, Power Addicts, monthly-ish. I love how we had to add the ish. They usually are on a monthly. Go ahead and check that out. Power Hour, as well as the Microsoft 365 Champion Community Call. All of those are available to you as well. In the area user groups, we have the Rhode Island user group, Granite State user groups. We also have Boston Azure. Actually, two of them are in Boston, as well as the Power Apps and Power Automate group. So take a look at those, and you can look those up online, and they'll be easy to work with. Okay, alright then. This is a part where you can, the therapy session, if you have questions, concerns, do you have problems, this is the place to do it. We got a lot of smart people on the phone who'd like to use it, as well as in the room. If we can't help you, we can point you in at least the semi-appropriate direction. Or maybe you've figured something out. It's like, holy cow, this is the most amazing thing I've ever come up with. We're also interested in hearing that too, because we like to permanently borrow ideas.
I have the question we started talking about. I have people in a team site, and one computer puts in a file, and the other computer doesn't see the file for a couple of hours. They're physically in the same building.
So,
Anything I could do to make sure synchronization is happening fast enough?
So you're saying
Make
seeing
sure
it
the
in the
data
Teams
center's not in
interface?
China.
so I'm going to translate for what I heard, Arthur, and let me know if I'm correct or incorrect. So basically, you have a client who has multiple people in the same building, same connectivity. Somebody uploads a document into either a SharePoint site or their OneDrive that's being shared, like a folder that's being shared around the company. And when they upload that document into a folder, the synchronization client is not doling it out to everyone else in a timely manner.
Correct.
Okay. So,
Is it always the same user? Or is this rotate from user to user?
Multiple users are
Multiple
waiting
users.
to see the file.
So is there one person? So is it a primary person that is creating the file that everyone else is waiting for?
Yes.
All right. So let's say John Smith from finance is making the initial file, puts it into his OneDrive, and everyone else cannot see it for a couple hours.
Correct.
It's possible that John Smith from finance, the synchronization client could be wrong. I've seen several things. One, the C drive is getting filled up and there's no room for it to actually continue on. That's one of the probably the biggest factors that I would look into immediately, if not sooner. Because if the C drive is filling up, it's going to get cranky real quick.
No, that's not it.
Okay. Another thing that I would look into is go into the system tray, right click on the cloud icon for the OneDrive synchronization client, and then check to see if there are errors in the synchronization process. It could be bottlenecking because there are certain documents that are not being synchronized due to any number of issues. One, for example, is a PST file is trying to synchronize, which is now blocked regularly by all tenants because of the duplication issue that comes with. That would be another thing I would check into.
They can get corrupted sometimes, so sometimes it's worthwhile just to kill the synchronization,
Yeah,
delete the local copy of the files, and then reestablish it.
yeah, that's another thing
Okay.
as well. Because sometimes it, as he said, Mike said, it does get cranky pretty quick if you end up getting somewhat corrupted, or like I said, there's a bottleneck that you may or may not see.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Anyone else? Bueller? Go for it.
I have a query if nobody else has a question.
Sure.
I'm curious on people's thoughts and feedback on the new SharePoint library interface. All right, we got an evil chuckle from at least one user here.
I think it's terrible.
I agree.
It's disjointed. It changes the way the user experience is. There's literally menus that don't look the same as the menus on the other side. It's something that you wouldn't change that drastically without going through change management, right? You have users that are used to a user
Change
experience.
management does not exist at Microsoft anymore. They fired them years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the new icon is all the way to the right. It's counterintuitive. It's terrible.
There's also inconsistency with the labeling. At one point, it has a labeling of filter by fields. People are like, "What the hell's a field?"
Oh no.
And
We're gonna change the
because
nomenclature.
everywhere else it's still listed as a column.
Yeah.
You add a column, you add this other thing.
Yeah.
But if you want to filter it, you're filtering by fields.
Would that be strawberry fields?
Strawberry fields, possibly. You have to name all of your fields strawberry for that to work. I saw a fantastic review, and I wish I knew who it was, but somebody on YouTube did like kind of a real-time sort of review. It was hilarious. It was clearly somebody with lots of experience in the industry, and he just kind of, it wasn't so much a review as much of the initial reaction sort of video. And I thought it was hilarious because his initial reaction was like a mirror image of my initial reaction. He was like, "Oh, so this is over. Why did they do? Oh, and this is over. What? Why?"
So
it was just a lot of that.
I've been fortunate because our tenant is set up to take things as far back as possible. So
you don't have it yet?
We don't have it yet. So thank you for
maybe they'll work out some of the bugs by then.
Can I share it to the group?
Oh yeah, please do.
Take a look at this wild happiness.
Because my office hours are probably.
I didn't mean for this to derail the meeting. I was just curious to get some feedback because.
Oh hi.
It is hilarious.
All right. So first off, you want to create something, it's all the way over here.
There, yeah.
Right? But what are these icons for? Oh, if I click on them, they're filters.
Yeah, they're filtered for that specific file. Yeah,
So-
that part I did understand.
You can't modify those.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens if I've got some...
And they have no relevance to the files that are actually in there. So if you
Well,
have a
yeah.
library that has no Excel docs, that Excel doc file button
Again,
is still there and
it-
bright green,
it's a Jedi mind trick. It's okay.
you know.
This is not the file you're looking for.
I will say from a positive standpoint, I like the fact that we're prioritizing the views because I'm somebody who lives
Yeah.
and breathes by making custom views for people.
Yeah.
And I like seeing that more prominent.
You like the buttons though for the views? Like, all right, so say I had 10 views, like all of a sudden this just gets really wonky.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
This is,
Oh, I wish I could share one of mine because I have things with at least 10 views in them, and I'm curious what those look like now.
It's probably going to wrap around.
Yeah, hopefully at some point it concatenates them into a drop down. I don't know.
yeah, there's a lot to it. And again, this to me just blows me away. Like, why do I have to go all the way across my screen to go create or upload?
I think under actions or something, I saw some agent.
Oh, yeah. So we can add an agent. Remember, agents everywhere. So yes, in SharePoint, you have the notion of knowledge agents where you can basically create the agent and it'll point, and you can point it towards the document library, the site. And they've actually had an upgrade to the connector, so it actually works a lot better than it did like a month or two ago with the initial SharePoint agent.
The agent's there in the old interface too. It's under the integrations tab, right where you would expect it to be. It
Don't worry,
actually,
they'll move it again. Come on.
yeah. No. That's why I was curious what people thought of it.
Yeah.
And if I was the only one screaming why and slamming my head against the desk.
No.
Okay, cool.
All right. And once again, thanks for the grub from Turn Digital and
Yay.
sponsoring this. It's very much appreciated. Not to mention the office space that we're in. So they've been giving us a physical home yet again, so we can meet in person.
Dimitri's office and there's no Dimitri.
He is saving the world in a different part of the world.
Good for him. It
Awesome.
needs his help.
And here are all our past sponsors.